baby. You're so
Hey, good evening and welcome to Fish Out Northwest, Win England. The Barnum is back this week. Not a recorded show. This is live this evening, folks. We even got a, you know what, I was watching our video from last time, and for some reason we got halfway into the show and you're sitting there and I'm re-introing a segment and like, what? When did you get in here? You're like, anyway, Tony Wintrip is back in studio joining us again. Bull Down Productions. How you doing, buddy?
Great, buddy.
I'm glad to have you back in here. We got a lot of stuff going on with you. We got a lot of elk stuff to talk amongst you two. I won't call you the Chuckleheads because the actual Chucklehead's not here.
Yeah, he's probably still lost in the mountains somewhere.
Probably, yeah. So, but we'll get to that. We'll get to your new album just released. You got so much going on. Really glad you made the drive, and if we couldn't get you here, we definitely got you here by that spread of food.
Amazing. This place is amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing food, amazing people.
Big shout out to David over there in IT Corner. After we spent some time on the boat, he decided not to show up for the show last week either, so
we pretty much boycotted David.
Yeah, I was flying solo last week. For all you who tuned in and watched some of the stuff I threw together while I was at Fish Camp last week, thank you, appreciate it. Had a few little insightful things we put on there. That wasn't too bad.
I watched some of it while I was cutting meat.
Oh, there you go. Caught up as to what we have going on.
Right? Yep. Oh, really? We're doing that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Perfect. Chef is still up in Canada chasing birds and guiding his way through the brush. So
yeah, and he's got to be. I mean, I'm starting to hear a lot of geese starting to fly south.
Yeah,
now,
they are.
So it's got to be like on fire.
Yeah, no, they're doing well. He's posting up pictures. If you're not following Kelly Lance O'Neill on Facebook, you should look him up and check out. If you're an avid waterfowler, he is a phenomenal caller and guide as well, and he stays pretty busy with that. And currently, he's up in Canada doing that thing, so we'll see him back here, I don't know, about a month or so. Right. But we got a bunch of cooking episodes in the file ready to go. A lot of pre-record on that, but everything else is live.
Just bail out for like a month and just go hunt birds.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody pays you, so you can still pay the bills, right? So anyway, we got all that going on. Hey, I want to remind you that Fish Out Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Pacific Commons, located in Puyallup, Washington. We thank them for that, as we thank all our sponsors each and every week for helping us bring this to you. And remind you that we are on Thursday nights up against the NFL, of course, and we're winning the battle, I like to think.
This is way better.
Yeah. So take some time, check us out Thursday evening, 7 p.m. right here on Facebook. Also go over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and please start sharing that out there. Let's start building that YouTube channel to blow it up and make sure people know where to find us. Join us each and every week throughout the week. Find our content as Barnum and I continue to post up stuff there on a daily basis to keep you in the loop as to what's going on throughout the Northwest and beyond. And of course, anything we have going on this week, there's been a lot of fish dying, by the way, and there's some elk that hit the ground as of late. And our freezers are getting full of various types of meats with fins and hooves. So
yeah, we got to make a swap here at some point.
We got to do a little trading.
Because I have zero fish.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I have a lot of elk.
That's the beauty of this group, man. That's what we do, right? Get out there and conquer and harvest and share in what we obtain. So, with that, continue to post your pictures. We got a lot of fall fishing going on now. We're going to get into some openings and closures that are getting a little bit, they're starting to piss me off, Barnum. I'm going to be quite frank with you. Some of this stuff is starting to really kind of get under my skin, but there is still plenty of opportunity out there. You just got to know where to go and when. We're going to help you do that, and got some hunting to talk about. And yeah, we had quite a few elk pictures getting posted up on our Facebook page, and lots of fish out there. Post up those pics. We want to see those kids, and we want to see your recipes that you're using. If you're following some of the chef's recipes, make sure you throw that on there. We just want to interact and engage with you guys for all the support you give us. So continue to share our content, get it out there, and help us along the way. Oh, and make sure you go to our Facebook page at the very top. We have pinned our swag photo album, has all the items that we're currently selling. You can get a hold of us via Messenger or Message Sherry, and we will fill your order. No problems, no questions asked, other than, break out the checkbook. So with that, we have lots going on throughout the Northwest and beyond and around Puget Sound. David, Sherry, and I participated in the Everette Coho Derby last weekend.
Right.
Finally got out, and we talked about a few of the derbies along the way, and just due to scheduling and whatnot, weren't able to all make it come together. But you guys were busy, you know, taking care of elk and canning mushrooms and pulling veggies out of the garden and just doing what the what the sustainable wild family does. And Tony's off in the brush helping other people get elk. And we took our small team of 3, stayed in Kingston, a real nice place we stayed at there. And it just worked out great, man. We were, you know, living clear down here. You don't want to be driving back and forth and try to do that whole thing.
Right.
So got a house, got David's boat. David ran the boat. I ran the gear. Sherry fought the fish. Put a couple videos out the last few days. Check those out on our Facebook page or YouTube for that matter. They're only 3 and 4 minutes, but kind of gives you an idea of a little fun that we were having. You know, to Sherry's credit, she has not fought a lot of bigger fish.
Right.
She is all about kokanee and trout and getting out there in, you know, a little nicer weather. And she enjoys fishing. And she really wanted to get on this coho stuff. She had no idea those coho.
Well, normally this saltwater fishery is a fair weather fishery, but this year it's been so up and down with the weather.
Yeah, August has been pretty damp, and September has been, you know, somewhat wet. And we had one beautiful day out there on Saturday, and then Sunday it was blowing in. The big concern, not so much for the showers we were going to get hit with, but the wind. And we can tell you for sure, you know, in the luxury of David's boat, he's got the flare and he's got the radar, and we leave the dock there at 6:15 in the morning, still dark, to get out there on where we want to start dropping gear, barely crack of daylight, and there's nobody out there. Especially Sunday morning. Saturday, yeah, because the weather was nice and visibility was good. Sunday it was pretty crappy, and not a lot of guys out there, so we got going on the fishing and started getting into fish right away again like we did the day before. And pretty soon the boats finally started showing up. But the wind, I think the forecast was 12 to 15 at certain times of that morning. That was keeping, you know, if I was in the 18-foot Raider, I would think twice. I fished up there, Area 10, Edmonds, Kingston area. When that wind comes up anywhere between 8 and 11, when those wind waves get going, it gets pretty snotty out there. So
on top of the wind chop, but then you have trying to control the troll. And that's the hardest part, because you start to crab walk, you start to have trouble with your speed, with your presentation. It makes fishing hard.
Bigger, heavier boat like David's, you know, that nice big glass, comfortable Defiance. It definitely just, you know, very comfortable to ride in, handles that, getting tossed around, the gear's running well. It's probably part of the success in being able to keep your gear running true, and his ability to keep the boat going where we want it to, and we're hitting fish and turning around, getting right back on them. That pays out. If you're in my boat and I don't have all the fancy equipment and I'm running tiller handle and doing all that, we're going to catch fish, but we're not fishing as effectively as we did out of David's boat. So, you know,
way to go, David.
Yeah, way to go, David. We had a great time. We had a lot of fun. Later on the show, I'm going to break it down in the bait lab for you guys, how I've been running my herring rigs out in Puget Sound this year. It's kind of a crossover between what we run at Willapa, and I've taken it to Puget Sound and just do it because it freaking works. And we'll do a little comparison of the old adage of the 3 to 4 ounce, you know, fluorescent painted, whether it's fluorescent orange or chartreuse, kidney or banana sinker, whatever you want to call it, 3 and 4 ounce, that old school thought, versus how I've been running the Yakima bait spreader bar and basically heavier lead. And it's been working. So we'll get into that. We'll show you how well the weed guard works. I mean, all that, that flat out fished that bait rod all day long. It caught 75% of our fish. It was just nonstop, and all we had to do is hang heavier weight on it and go deeper. And even though I put herring on some of the downriggers from time to time too, that bait right out the back just kept performing. So we'll break that down a little later in the show, but all in all, you know, they had between 1,700 and 1,800 participants in the Derby. Great turnout up in Everette for the awards. They had it inside of the dry storage there at Harbor Marine, and it was entertaining. It was a good time. And Shing won a crab pot because she got like 125th place or something. Way to go, Sherry! Yeah, for her 7.2 pound whatever coho that she got. And yeah, check out that little video of her getting excited on that bigger fish. It was something to.
Well, and the coho are so acrobatic.
They're so fun.
They're just chaotic.
Oh yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, you know, either you're able to control it, or it's like, nope, get all the other rods out of the water. This is going to be a clown show. So, great time. Saw a lot of people up there that we know. A handful of folks came up at the awards there and said hi and asking us about the show and how it's all going and whatnot. And no, it's just, you know, it's great to fish. That being said, we were hearing rumblings Saturday, then into Sunday. Yep, sounds like the 23rd, Monday, they're going to close out Puget Sound pretty much down to 1 fish retention. So here we are, Barnum. We have spent a lot of time preseason looking ahead, taking in forecasts, the big hype, all the build-up for this million coho march. That then on the Columbia, that was then cut back to about 600-something thousand, which still is a lot of fish. And you think, okay, well, then the cohos start trickling in on the heels of the humpies, and everybody's like, well, they're not quite here yet. We're just waiting to see.
Right.
And then as of late, those that have been beaten up in area 9 and 10 quite frequently, lots of reports of, and creel sampling would indicate smaller fish and not as many fish, though there's a handful of folks out there fishing going, we think the fishing's fine. And David talked to a guy who is involved with the commercial harvest in Lake Washington and said, there's plenty of coho, and they're big in the lake, right? So if they're in the lake, they had to go through the locks to get there. And I'm thinking, well, the early indications were there's going to be a ton of fish out in CQ, and Area 6 was going to start pushing a lot of fish down, and we should start seeing them. And I thought early indications would be that those fish were going to start showing up, and then now they're here, oh no, now they're not. And for a handful of people out there on the Derby weekend, it was a little tough. For some of us, we found decent numbers, and for some guys, they did really well. I mean, I heard reports of some boats getting into 20, 30 fish days, right? So that's the 10 percenters. We didn't have quite that high in numbers, but we did good both days, even in the crummy weather. So we were finding fish. I was a little bit taken aback to think that we're reducing our coho fishery now to a 1 fish limit. And a lot of folks are not real excited about spending the time, gas, money, and get out there on Puget Sound. 2 guys, 3 guys in the boat, and now you get 2 or 3 fish for your day. That just,
it's a tough spot because of the fact that we had these major predictions of this surplus run that was going to be a run that we haven't seen in years, and everybody was excited. And now maybe things aren't shaping up like they should, and you're on both sides of the fence where one side of you says, okay, well, this is what in-season management is about. If the run's not what we think it should be, maybe we should curb catch limits a little bit, maybe take a small closure, let the run get to where we can judge it and decide. But you also have the guy, I mean, we want to catch fish. We want to participate. We want to put fish in the freezer, and it's tough. The thing I keep saying is, man, it's early.
It's only September.
It's only September. I mean, we're late, mid to late September. I mean, the weather's tricking you. It feels like October. But, I mean, there's still plenty of time for these coho to show up.
Absolutely.
Well, there is that. Now, social media does a great job of letting everybody and anybody weigh in with their opinions, and people do willingly, in case you haven't noticed. Because you can hide behind a screen, and and an 80-year-old man can be a 20-year-old prize fighter. So the thing is, you get those folks in the camp that say it was all overhyped to ensure, because of budget shortfalls, lots of license sales get doled out, right? People are going to buy licenses and spend money and go fishing, and then once we get midway through the season, they're going to pull the rug out from under you and say, oh, we're down to a 1 fish limit, or a week from now, it looks like we have to close it for a few weeks. Now, I get it, and Barnum, you hit it right in the head. We advocated for years for in-season management. We asked time and time again, can you not adjust the runs based on performance to allow us to either fish or not? And that hedges on the side of conservation, right? So if you're conservation minded, if these closures come about, the first thought in your head isn't, oh, they just bamboozled us into buying licenses. Your first thought would be, well, perhaps the run is underperforming compared to what they projected, right?
But how many of us are they bamboozling? Come on, we're buying licenses.
You're going to buy licenses
I mean,
anyway.
we all want to bitch and complain, but we're buying licenses.
I don't think that's at the crux of it, right?
No.
The other side of that is, and I did put phone calls into WDFW this week. I had some conversations. We were trying to get somebody on the phone tonight to explain it. Nobody available, of course. They're far too busy at times, it seems. To my frustration, I'm not saying I'm happy about the fact we're not having the conversation with somebody from WDFW. I really wanted that to happen, but things that they failed to put out there, as in the department. If you're going to slap a 1 fish limit on the recreational community. It would behoove of you to also let the recreational community know that, by the way, this is an agreement with the co-managers, and they have agreed to stop fishing on this date. In other words, all the scuttlebutt I was hearing at the Derby was, oh sure, them SOBs make us go to one fish, and the tribes are going to continue to fish and just harvest like crazy. Yeah. Now, we can't control them. The department can't control them. If it's in a co-management agreement and they agree to that, all I'm saying is that it's an easier sell, or it goes over better, if we have an understanding what the other side's doing. Right. If we just assume that they're going to continue to fish and we're on the sidelines again, that pisses everybody off.
And that's the assumption. When that press release comes out and we're getting cut, everybody automatically jumps to the conclusion like, I'm getting cut and everybody else is still fishing?
Commercial guys are there.
This is BS.
Yeah. Now, that being said, we know in August, Area 7 was closed to recreational. They conducted a handful of commercial fisheries up there. Right. That is one of the topics that I've emailed WDFW about, trying to get somebody on staff in here to have that discussion. There's been a few other fisheries in the salt and elsewhere that recreational opportunity was minimized or cut, and commercial fisheries were conducted. And we're trying to get folks in here to have those discussions. Get an understanding of how they model these fisheries and why that's an acceptable practice, how you come to that conclusion based on numbers. The Steelhead on the Columbia, lowest in over 15 years, and they conducted 4 or 5 nights on that Chinook gillnet fishery. Now, true, there's plenty of Chinook, but the Steelhead is in peril to the point where now we're looking at sections of the Snake River is closed from September 29th till further notice for Chinook retention. That notice came out today. They're also keeping it closed for Steelhead fishing. You can't even catch and release on certain sections of the Snake now from the 29th to December 31st.
You imagine how those guys feel? They're sitting up there on the upper end of the Columbia River on the Snake and watching the lower fishery happen. See these commercial nets go in and see everything that's involved with that, and then their seasons get closed.
I can tell you a handful of buddies that live over in Idaho, and I historically have gone over there year after year in October and fished with my buddies on the Snake River for those big B-run steelhead, right? The largest steelhead hatchery in the world is up there in Orfino on the upper Snake River. And if you never toured that facility, it's unbelievable. But how do you have that facility on that river, and we have this low run projection on the Columbia? They allow for a Chinook retention with gill nets, or conduct a gill net fishery. I get it based on the Chinook numbers, but the driver behind that is your impacts on your steelhead and your percentage of mortality that they have yet to explain. They said they modeled it in 2017, and they were fine with those numbers. This is 2019. They couldn't have observers on boats because of insurance purposes. We've talked about all this. But the thing that grinds my gears is they don't mandate that they log steelhead encounters. They don't care. As long as they release them, it doesn't matter if they catch them. What if they release them dead or alive? We don't care. They just can't keep them. I'm like, that doesn't seem like a way of managing a run that's already on the decline. Now you're looking at those guys up there that year in and year out have had the luxury of going after these big brute steelhead, you know, that are world renowned for their size and their fightability, and just that fishery for years was a staple. Now they can't even do catch and release in certain sections of that river at the prime time of their season. I just don't understand how you manage fisheries.
It's tough.
It's tough. But when it starts at the mouth of the river and goes all the way up to there, you have to take all those components into effect. Now, that being said, they have different openings and closings that you'll get into in a minute on the Columbia throughout the rest of the season. But that's another one that just came out today. I wrote down a quick note that Clearwater, is closed down for Chinook and Steelhead on certain sections. I get it. So the coho fishery in Puget Sound down to 1 fish. The tribes are apparently off the water of a certain date. Haven't been given what date that was. They will reconvene with the co-managers here next week at some point and reevaluate the condition of the run. Again, you mentioned it a little bit ago, in-season management we should consider a luxury that we did not used to have. So if they reconvene and the hatcheries look like they're going to get their numbers, and they objectively look at it and say, it looks like we'll meet escapement on our wild fish.
Right.
We can open these fisheries back up to a 2-bag limit. That's what we hope for. And I honestly think we'll get there. If you remember 2016, was it? Had a dismal return once again. They went into the season with a lot of closures, a lot of late starts on certain systems until they did test net fisheries. They conducted and realized, hey, this is performing better than we anticipated. We can now open up this river. And then like a week later, they're like, oh, we can now open up this river.
Right.
So it's not to say once they close something, we don't get it back. I got to suspect that these fish will come in. Barnum, you mentioned it. It's only September.
Right.
Albeit it's the end of September, but it is September.
Right.
And
I mean, I can think of a couple years past where we were sitting here at the end of September going, wow, we haven't had rain for 90-some days, and we haven't even seen a Chinook yet.
Yeah.
And they're talking about closing waters because it's too warm.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, it's early.
When's the last time the hump tulips hit 3,000 on September 14th?
Right. Long time.
Whenever it was. We haven't seen water in September like that in years.
We haven't seen weather in September like this in a while.
No. Long time.
I mean, we know that from hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of different things going on. The coho forecast, albeit it may come true. They may just be a little bit the time before they get here. Some of our coastal fisheries are performing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm staying up to date on a lot of the charter stuff out of Westport and Milwaukee, and they're still catching a lot of coho out in the ocean. Yeah. You know, still grinding day in, day out. Still
that
putting a lot
should
of
bode
fish
well
on the boat.
for our area too, and Intergrays Harbor and Chehalis and all this system out here that doesn't even open until October 1st.
Right.
So, and as it's written as we go into this, we have a 2 coho retention of wild fish on all those rivers this year. So that's really going to spread out the pressure.
Wow.
In a great opportunity. There again, though, if it underperforms, get ready for it. I'm not saying it's happening, but, it could happen. They could bump us to 1 fish.
Right.
You just have to pay attention to that, and that's why you need to get on the WDFW email thread. Make sure you get those updates daily. That's how Barnum and I stay up on all this stuff. So, warm water species meeting, removing limits. We're talking catfish, bass, and walleye. Barnum, this one, depending on if you're a silverfish kind of guy or a greenfish kind of guy. Tony's a greenfish kind of guy.
Well, any fish kind of guy.
He's a ditch pickle master.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one because we had, as of late, the salmon runs have not been what we're used to.
Right.
So a lot of your guides, a lot of your recreational fishermen have turned to other fisheries, whether it be bass, walleye, catfish, whatever it may be, crappie. And a lot of guys have built businesses, a lot of the guides have built businesses around these new fisheries. I mean, I think up until about 10, 15 years ago in Washington State, we were like, walleye? What's walleye? And everybody's like, oh, they're amazing eating. Yeah. Really? It's walleye? Like, what are you talking about?
Until
now,
you eat one.
Yeah, and now it's this huge fishery that's growing leaps and bounds, and now the state steps in and says, hey, we think that these warm water species, walleye, bass, are really leading to the depletion of our salmon runs when eating the juvenile salmon.
Sure.
And we need to think about our bag limits on these fish and whether or not we need to increase bag limits or remove bag limits altogether so you can keep as many as you want.
Yep.
And there's a whole fishing community now going, wait a minute.
Time out.
Yeah. I mean, I've built a new business around this business model, and now you want to just go in and deplete these runs and kill these fish off too?
So a lot of that stems from Governor Inslee's task force as it's wrapped into the orca recovery, salmon recovery, looking at all predation, which includes pinnipeds, birds, and now warm water species fish that predominantly are carnivorous and eat the smolt, right?
And I think that's a lot of the argument is now you've found a business model that works and an economic impact that works where you can target these fish and you have that, yes, they're eating salmonids and they're putting a herd on juvenile fish, but then you have over on this other side, you have pinnipeds and birds that are doing probably far more damage to the returning runs, and yet we just keep pushing that problem off, going, that's not the problem, this is the problem. And the problems that we always deal with, it feels like the ones they want to attack and really go after are the ones that hurt our wallets the most.
Well, and it's a money thing.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting at WDFW and legislators and you're trying to decide what do we really need to go after first and foremost, on the salmon recovery. And then you put it all up on the board. Well, what's that cost? What's that cost? What's the cost to really evaluate and then put a plan in motion to start taking care of the overpopulation of pinnipeds in the Salish Sea? What's it cost to remove pinnipeds in Columbia River?
Right.
What's it going to cost to remove them in other parts of Puget Sound where they're overpopulated? Okay, multiple millions of dollars. What's it going to cost to lift the limits on warm water species fish and tell the anglers to go catch them?
Right.
Matter of fact, we're gonna sell endorsement stamp.
Right. And, right. And do they look at it like, wow, look at this increased opportunity we're giving all these fishermen, where a lot of them are looking at it going, yeah, that's going to be great for a year, but 2-3 years down the line, now all of a sudden we have another depleted run, even though it's a tough one. It's a weird one because some of those are invasive. Some of them are, it's tough.
It is
really tough.
This rule only covers areas that are recognized as anadromous fish, areas as in where the salmon steelhead, travel and migrate. So we're not talking about any warm water species in closed waters of, lakes and bodies of water that don't flow into any type of stream, river, or have any connection with anadromous type fisheries. So it is a tough one. It was never an issue before, but like you said, the salmon steelhead fisheries have gotten so tough. These guys and gals are looking to make a living. We, in previous projects you and I were both involved in radio programs, used to advocate and try to encourage people on the west side to go to the east side and go catch walleye.
Yeah.
Because they're fantastic to eat. It's a lot of fun. Get the kids out there. Right. You can do it in the time of year when it's warm. You can do it any time of the year, but warm water, warm days, beautiful weather, go catch walleye. Once you start eating those and perch, you're going to be like, wow, why didn't I do this years ago?
Sure.
Now you get a bunch of people interested in doing that, and you get guides who also figure out that, hey, this is a great way to offset what I'm not making on salmon and steelhead, and now we're trying to pull that out from under them. So I'm more in the camp of let's focus on the big ticket items. Let's get the pinnipeds under control. Let's start talking seriously about the bird problem that is just nobody really even pays attention to. And then we can start talking about, the in-river stuff if we're not making, fast enough recovery and we're not seeing good numbers of outbounding smolt. Then that needs to be addressed. But for me, it's not the first target.
Right, and this whole salmon recovery thing is so difficult. We want to look at it as like a two-headed monster, but realistically, it has about 40 different heads that we have to deal with.
It's very confusing.
Chopping off what head's going to help the most, I don't know. It's tough, really tough.
Another notification came out this week, Barnum. We had talked about the fact that the legislature did not pass and support WDFW's request for budget. And so they have now sought, and they've done this before, they've put forward to the governor a supplemental funding request up to the tune of $26 million. Right, $12.5 million, basically to help the agency stay above water in paying, rise of costs of wages increase, centralized state services, and even their utility increases. Just their day-to-day operations is an additional $12.5 that they don't have, right? And we had mentioned this before when the budget failed and legislators did not support giving them the $33 million that they needed. There was going to be some serious cuts, and the list is getting longer. If they do not get, they need an additional $6.7 million for ongoing funds to maintain current services. Without that, by June of 2020, we're going to look at cuts to species and habitat conservation, cuts to fish and shellfish management of 8 salmon and trout hatcheries. We had talked about that earlier. Got 8 hatcheries we're going to shut down. Cuts to hunting opportunities. So we're going to have more gates going closed, less access opportunity. Cuts to non-lethal methods of managing conflict between people and wildlife. Now, you and I have covered extensively about the lack of, matter of fact, there's a sheriff over on the east side.
Social media is full of wildlife-human conflict right now. It's just every day.
There's a sheriff on the east side who has said, I am hiring houndsmen to deal with bears and cats because WDFW can't do their job. And he has the power and authority to do so in the area that he protects and oversees. If he feels like the conflicts are rising and not being addressed due to lack of funds and lack of boots on the streets from WDFW to be able to handle the conflict, he is in a position as sheriff of that county to say, I am hiring and we are budgeting for, and we're going to put houndsmen to work to handle these conflicts between cattle and wolves and dogs and, I mean, just whatever.
God bless that guy.
Yeah, I read that story today. I was like, wow. Yep. So here we go, right?
Let me speak for Tony. Let me speak for hunters all across the board. Let us bait. Let us use hounds. Extend the seasons. Longer seasons. Bigger bag limits. Let us do our jobs.
If you want to,
that's why we're here.
If you don't want to burden the cost on the department, and you actually want to sell more licenses to get it done,
Hey, soccer mom in the suburbs that's worried about your kid being drugged off from the park.
Go watch the
Tony
game.
and I got it.
Yeah.
We'll take care of you.
Nothing to see here. You stay out of the woods.
Right. You just stay out of the woods and let the men handle the project.
Predator control.
Cuts and access to salmon and steelhead fishing on portions of the Columbia River and its tributaries. We already got a number of closures happening all up and down the Columbia and its tributaries, and this would even compound that more. Right. So cuts to maintenance for forest health, which is becoming a huge deal as far as how they're recognizing the need to manage their forest better to stave off the amount of forest fires that we have that just burn out of control. And cuts to customer service. And people are probably thinking right now, well, they don't have any right now, so how much more could they cut, right? There are a lot of things on the chopping block, and the list even goes longer. And you know, I don't know where this is going to land in the governor's office. If he's going to say, yep, you guys need the $26 million, here's a check, now make sure. Director Suswin does mention in the article, hey, we were audited last year, and we basically got through that very respectfully, and we showed them that we are cognizant of the money spent, and we're being frugal. And they are. I'll give them credit for that. I don't know where this is going to land. I just wanted people to be aware that when the legislator doesn't come through and WDFW is sitting on a handful of shortcomings and trying to manage a budget and keep projects and programs going, and we're already experiencing all these cuts, boy, if the governor doesn't step up and give them some money, I don't know where this is going, guys. I mean, this is going to get pretty ugly before it gets better. So what about, real quickly, Barnum, before we jump out for a break, we got additional closures relative to salmon and steelhead on the Columbia, as I just had mentioned.
So the Columbia closes to all recreational salmon and steelhead fishing beginning tonight, September 26th. The closure comes at the tail end of a challenging year for the Columbia, which saw lower returns than expected for many salmon and steelheads. But let's kind of go down it real quick. Buoy 10 at the mouth of the Columbia River will remain open to coho retention. Buoy 10 fishery has a negligible impact on the number of Chinook making their way upriver and is still providing good opportunity for coho, which we've heard. The closure does extend from a line projected from Rocky Point on the Washington Bank through the Red Buoy 44 to Navigation Marker 2 at Tongue Point on the Oregon Bank. Upstream to Highway 395 in Pasco, the Hanford Reach salmon fishery will remain opened and is not affected by this rule change. So Hanford Reach stays open. Which it's been producing some pretty good fishing and some great size Chinook.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I've been following, Austin for one, posting some great Chinook.
That Hanford Reach now, those red dragons as they're referred to, that's some of your biggest Columbia River Chinook kind of congregate in that area.
Wow.
I've always been kind of in the camp of, well, they are returning to the Hanford area. It's no surprising they're big. And have 3 eyes and, 2 tails. But other than that, they're...
Well, I've been a little bit surprised. A couple of guys have posted pictures of those fish, and you kind of look at them and go, man, were we boot fishing now? And then they cut them and post a picture of the cut, and you go, wow.
Genetics.
Yeah.
They have the Derby coming up again up there.
King of the Reach.
King of the Reach. Which is a great program. We'll have to check on the dates on that. We may have to go over and fish that because what you're doing is you're capturing fish for their broodstock program that keeps that area generating fish and providing those fish into that reach area and providing fish into the Columbia River, and a number of those fish are caught down at the Buoy 10 fishery once that kicks off in August, right?
I think a lot of those big upriver brights you see are Hanford Reach fish.
I think so too. You get in that 30-pound class, and it's a URB, it's probably a Hanford Reach fish, no doubt about it. So, the Derby's coming. I don't have the date on that. I'll have to look. Somebody will probably throw it up here. Hey, a couple guys making mention on the warm water discussion. Actually, it's lit up pretty good here, Barnum. We're not dissing on the warm water fishermen as would be, that's your hobby, that's what you want to go do.
Right.
We're not just saying, hey, it's only about the guides. We're saying about anybody that wants to fish the warm water species.
Right.
I enjoy going after walleye. Sherry loves it. They're fun to fish for, and for us, we eat them. Don't get pissed at me because I'll eat the smallmouth too.
Right, and I know we always talk about like the
Yeah.
guides and stuff like that, but it's a little easier from the guide standpoint to prove the economic impact.
Correct.
I mean, so that's a lot of
Yeah.
times why I go back to the guide side
Yeah.
of it, because it's really easy to say, hey, you're going to cut 150 guides out of making a living.
Yeah.
So compared to, I mean, we know that we all pump a lot of money into these hobbies that we have, fishing and hunting, but that's really hard money to track.
There are certain areas on the Columbia that were already deemed as no limits. They took the limits off the greenfish here a couple years ago. But the guides over on that side collectively and fishing those areas have said, look, you come walleye fishing with me, I got a boat limit of 7 per angler. And they're limiting it amongst their own user group because they want to sustain the fishery. They don't want to play this game of, no holds bar, let's just grab them all, because they're smart enough to recognize what's happened with our other fisheries. And if we remove all the big egg-laying hens, you're not going to have a fishery.
Absolutely.
So they're very good at policing themselves. They release the big girls. And they and the big female fish too, and they hold themselves to a limit. I'm gonna get in trouble on that one.
I love it. Well, I haven't been to many bars.
All right.
Update is King of the Reach is October 25th through the 27th.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
okay. Might have to look at what else is going on in the old calendar and see if we can't make our way over there. Gosh, good attendance tonight. Keep the info coming on the board, guys. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Tony's a bit of a distraction. We apologize.
Some good stuff coming.
We'll get through the comments.
He's a good look. Why do I always got to sit next to the good-looking guys? I mean, it's hard to look good when you're sitting next to
Handsome
Tony.
You got good hair. I mean,
Look at that beard. That is an elk-killing beard right there.
That is.
It don't
Jeez.
grow up here. It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. All right, speaking of which, mister, we are going to jump out for a break. We come back in. Both you two were successful in putting some elk on the ground. Barnum, you and Hudson got 2 elk in your freezer. Tony, you did well on your hunt on your own. And your dad was with you again, wasn't he?
Yep. Always hunt with my dad. It's the greatest.
So
in the world.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Dad and my brother and a couple other my good buddies.
So
Yeah, it's good.
we had some weather challenges depending when you were hunting. Barnum, you noticed that some elk activity was a little different this year than you've witnessed in the past of all the years that you've been chasing elk in that same general area. And we're gonna compare notes. We're gonna see how it unfolded. If you had to do anything to change your game plan, if it was just par for the course, go out to where we always go, bugle, and they come walking in, and we shoot them, or did we have to work a little harder?
Wish it was that easy.
I know. Yeah. Tough season. Good stuff coming.
You just never know. You might even find yourself on your hands and knees crawling through a field barking like a dog. You just don't know.
That can work. I
what's
know it
gonna
can.
happen. All right, we'll jump out for a quick break. We come back. We got some elk talk to go on amongst these two. It's going to be entertaining and educational. I guarantee it. So don't go anywhere. We'll jump out for a break. We'll be right back here on FHA.
Stick around.
Yeah, boy.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
Welcome back to FHN, here live in studio. I assure you this show is live this week. Last week was kind of weird, I'm just saying. Get home from fish camp and scrap all that stuff together, and then here I am Thursday morning sitting in front of the cameras by myself, pre-recording some junk and throwing it all together, trying to make a show out of it.
Well, that's not easy to do. Monologuing is not easy.
It was different. It was definitely different. And you know, Sherry would pop in here like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Go away, woman.
Go away. Don't watch me while I do this."
I told you I was going to get in trouble. She already blew up my phone with the big girls comment with an exclamation point.
Hey, big girls need love.
You need some cardboard cutouts. Just put them in here while you're doing your little...
Perfect. Yeah. I can just sit here and talk. Well, don't need the cardboard cutouts tonight. I got you guys in here, thankfully. And let's talk a little elk. Barnum, you went into the season, I would assume, with some preconceived ideas and plans and things that have worked forever.
Right.
And after the first couple times out, going after them and bugling, and what'd you find? We're
gonna do what we do. We're gonna fire up the truck at 4 o'clock in the morning. We're gonna leave the house and we're gonna blow on a bugle tube until it hurts our ears. I mean, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna stop at every single little drainage, every single ridge, every single spot where I think an elk has ever lived, and we're gonna scream down in there.
Yeah.
And hope to get a bull to scream back, and then it's gonna be game time. And you know, that started Saturday, opening day. We did bump into, because of just over the years of hunting, you learn where elk live, and you can put yourselves in positions where you know there's elk going to be there. And we bumped into a lot of elk, but couldn't get an elk to talk. Sunday couldn't get an elk to talk. Monday couldn't get an elk to talk. Tuesday couldn't get an elk to talk. And we're just like, what is going on? Like, I can't remember a season where I'm 4 days into the season and I haven't had a bull bugle. I mean, it was tough. And then I think finally Wednesday evening we were able to get a bull answer, and he was actually on fire. He was on a string. I crackered that up so bad. I was so excited to get a bull to answer. We go charging down in there, and he bugles back. He's way closer than I thought he would be. I tried to make a quick move to get the wind right, and I'm face to face with a bull at 20 yards, and we are running when I see him, trying to get around him. And so we blow that one up, and then the next morning, call in another great bull. And again, I think this is all weather related. The weather broke. We had a small window of 2 or 3 days in the middle of the first week where things kind of stabilized out, barometer stabilized, rain stopped, bulls piped off a little bit. I don't know if you noticed the same thing.
Yep, I agree.
And, you know, we had some encounters there, and then that weather came right back.
Yeah. Muggy. It was so muggy, and never sweated so hard walking in all my years of bow hunting was this year. I mean, every morning we woke up, it was 58 to 62 at 5 in the morning. Yeah. It's just not ideal archery elk hunting conditions or any condition for anything.
Right.
Maybe a bear. I don't know. It sure wasn't for elk, but
and so did you see the same thing in the first 4 or 5 days of the season? Were things pretty quiet for you guys?
They were okay the first couple of days. Okay. But you know, certain pockets, it's like that every year. They'll be rutting in certain places, and other places they're not.
I mean, we have areas for sure that we say, okay, the first 3-4 days of the season, we're going to focus on these areas because these elk tend to bugle a little better early in the season. And then we're going to shift, you know, maybe lower elevation as the season goes on, because the bulls down lower tend to talk a little better towards the end of the season. But this year it was just like, for us, except for that small window in the middle of the season, it's like nothing's talking.
No, and there was a lot of pressure this year too, and one of the things we've learned.
Did you run into a lot of guys in the woods? A lot of trucks on the roads? Really?
Yeah. Well, we spent a lot of time on foot, and then we had the Weyerhaeuser permit this year, as well as a lot of people did. But there was quite a bit of pressure this year. But one thing about having a lot of pressure, knowing the elk herds where we typically hunt, or you're probably the same way, but all their secondary places. When bulls get pushed several days over and over, they'll take their cows and they'll go into their little hidey holes, and you got to know where that hidey hole's at, and you got to put in the hard work and the effort to go in there and throw your best stuff at them.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of times, and this has been over the years, where we may not get a bull to answer, and I say, we need to just go in there. I mean, I know elk live in there, and we just need to go in there, and you go down in there, and whether they answer or respond, you'll have an encounter. And that's just from years of getting bulls to answer, talking to bulls, hunting elk, you learn where they like to go when they're pressured.
Yep. And the thing that worked for us this year, probably more than anything, was on silent years where they go, really quiet, is we put the pressure on them. We went into where they, we pick up tracks and we'd track elk for, like we're hunting them with rifles, but we're hunting them with bows. And I would just bugle and bugle and bugle my way into those places and make plenty of noise, because everybody that tries to sneak in on elk and call elk, no good.
Doesn't work.
It just scares them because they don't hear you coming. And let's face it, a lost cow coming into a bedded herd of elk is going to make noise coming in, and they're going to feel like, okay, there's nothing weird about this. This happens every day. But the second one of us hunters starts tippy-toeing in and blows a bugle at 75 yards, everybody picks their head up and says,
wait a minute.
Unless that thing levitated in here.
Right. But we put the pressure on elk. A couple of bulls this year that piped up at 100 yards, but they're hearing you from 300 or 400 or 500 or into a big draw, and they wouldn't pipe up. And that, I think, is a lot of pressure and the weather. It was so warm this year. It was
Did you hear a lot of guys bugling? Was there a lot of extra noise?
Oh yeah, everybody's the patented Doug Flutie. It's all over social media. It's like Doug Flutie here, Doug Flutie there, and then the first morning you think you're in a place where no one else is at, and woo!
And it's tough because
you just laugh.
It's tough because we want to see a ton of people out there, and I mean, it's getting easier for people to learn. Like we said, with Phelps is doing some great videos. The Born and Raised guys are doing some great videos. There's a lot of guys really teaching you how to go out and call elk. And
they're teaching you where to find areas to hunt. The satellite imagery, figuring out where public land access is, and then you look at it and you lay that over and you go, oh, I can go hunt there, and pretty soon, there are still old logging roads I can drive up in there, and then I can walk down into this draw, and I'm going to go hunt that area this year. So there's some of that, and I got to think that some of it too is lack of access in former areas that you could hunt is now pushing, much like the elk. It's kind of pushing the hunters on top of each other, right? Some of that.
And things are changing in the fact that, 15, 20 years ago when we went out and called elk, we'd run into people in the woods and they would tell us we were idiots for calling elk.
Making too much noise.
And now you go out in the woods and everybody's bugling. And it's like, man, alive. And so, it definitely makes it a challenge. But it's going to make the good hunters better. And the guys that are successful at harvesting elk, on a year-to-year basis will become better and adapt to it and do it. And it's just, you can't shake your head at it because we need more hunters out there.
Yeah. Did you have to resolve to some spot and stock this year versus calling?
So for the first time, I kind of changed tactics when we ended up spotting Hudson's bull. We had actually we had been following the herd, and we had actually encountered this herd a couple times in days before, and the bulls weren't responsive at all. Zero. We'd blow a bugle and they would literally continue to feed. And it's like, oh my God. So we're making a hike, and it's the same herd. One of the smaller bulls that had been in the herd had been pushed off, and we decided to make a slip around him. If the wind was right, we would come in from the bottom and maybe try to make a call attempt or what. But as I'm going down there, I'm thinking, this little bull's been pushed out of the herd. He's not going to be interested in talking to other elk, and the fact that he probably just got his butt kicked. And any cow noise that comes his way, he's probably going to associate to the herd and know that if I go integrate with this cow, the big bull's going to come and whoop me again. So we decided that we were just going to stay quiet and make a sneak. And fortunately, kind of a happen chance and luck, we thought the bull was farther up the road than he was. We're trying to make the stalk to prepare for an elk that's 200 yards up the road, and I happen to glance to my left, and we're 35 yards from this bull feeding on accident.
Wow.
It's like, make it happen, please.
Get it done now.
Yeah.
That's great.
And Hudson was able to make a great shot. We dropped that bull, get that one taken care of. That was Friday evening. Saturday morning was pretty slow. Went to a different area to try to give that herd some rest. had a bull bugling, but way down in the bottom, and I was all by myself, and I wasn't going to go down there alone. Came back Saturday evening, back up to the same place Hudson has killed his bull. The bull I ended up harvesting there with about 15, 20 cows. Have a great encounter with that bull. I mean, because of low light situation, I can't approach him in the timber like I want to. I make a move on him in the clear cut, call him down to about 60 yards in the clear cut, and he put on just an absolute beautiful Roosevelt elk bugling show.
Really?
Bugled 50 times, tearing up the ground. He kind of got into a little slash pile and started tearing that up. And I mean, branches flying over his head, mud, moss. I mean, everything you want to see.
Yeah, perfect.
50, 60 bugles. I mean, just an amazing, just to
fired up.
Yeah,
That's why we elk hunt.
yeah, standing there with my son, taking this all in, and he's just like, "Oh my God, his branch is flying. This bull's on fire.
Yeah.
He's a monster, Dad."
Wow.
And it's like you can look back on that and go, "That was an watching the sunset, epic night in the Elk Woods." Yeah, and
That's
then
pretty awesome.
went back the next morning. Ended up that herd's in the same exact clear cut. Decide, you know what? I'm gonna try to slow play this. It's raining. The wind's kind of brutal. I'm going to see if I can just slide down in there and get a shot on this bull, and happen to make a guess on where I thought they were going to feed through. Slide down, get set up. The herd feeds through exactly like I thought they would. The bull presents a shot at 40 yards, which should have been a slam dunk, and I just absolutely make a horrific shot. And I want to blame the weather, I want to blame the wind, I want to blame everything.
But at the end of the day, you have to blame Barnum.
Yeah, and it really comes down. I talked to Tony today about it, and I blame myself for letting life get too busy and not spending enough time behind my bow. That's what it comes down to.
It happens.
Yeah.
It does.
And
you've been extremely busy.
Yeah.
And
so in the moment of truth, I'm sitting in this situation, watching this bull work its way up the ridge, and there's another satellite bull off, and they're bugling back and forth, and it's awesome, and everything's amazing, and this bull's coming up the ridge, and I'm putting pressure on myself going, okay, we're going to get an inch of rain today. It's blowing 25 miles an hour sideways. This shot has to be perfect. This elk has to die in this clear cut, or your chances of recovering are zero. And I made a horrible shot.
but you recovered that bull.
Due to great friends and, Hudson dragging him over mountains with me. And I mean, it probably did rain an inch that day and terrible conditions. And we tracked that bull for probably nearly 5 miles. And when we finally caught up to him, he was still alive. He was bedded and still alive. And I turned around to my friend John and gave him the biggest hug in the world. And he's like, "Is he dead?" And I'm like, "No, he's still alive, but we found him." I don't care if he's still alive. Like, we found him.
Right.
This was a successful track job in the worst conditions I've ever been a part of. Like, everything about this is horrible.
Yeah, you put on there, this day has been beyond belief.
I mean, just a roller coaster of emotions. There were 7 or 8 times where we were ready to give up, and then one little clue, like, "Oh, maybe this way," and then next thing you know, you're back on a blood trail, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and so we ended up actually bumping the bull from there, but he ended up going like 60 yards, and we gave him another 3 hours, and he died, and everything was great, and it was a beautiful drunken night of bliss. I mean, it was spot and stock. I mean, these are the first 2 bull. I mean, with the bull that Hudson killed and the bull that I killed, we haven't spot and stocked early season archery bulls in years. I mean, everything's been a call-in show. Yeah.
And very successful calling in 15, 20 yards year after year.
And I think it was the right move on those 2 elk just to stay silent and do it that way.
Interesting.
I think if one cow call in either one of those situations would have blew it out.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Tony, we'll dig into your option a little more here later on the show.
Okay.
We're going to start running a little behind here. Barnum's long-winded.
Yeah, sorry.
That's good. I love that. It's a great story. I'm glad
Great
you recovered it. And
that's just sticking with it. Some of us make great shots. Some of us all have made a bad shot in our life.
Oh, yeah.
Just sticking with the animal and giving it the best that you can, being a responsible outdoorsman like you did and staying with it.
Working hard.
Good Lord on your side. You come up on it, and that's great, man.
Yep, you were supposed to find that animal, Barnum.
Yep.
Okay, good stuff. We are going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, we're going to jump into the bait lab for a real quick segment on some options to exercise when you're out there fishing Puget Sound, everybody loves, especially during coho season, to roll that bait rod out the back. Well, there's some different options that you can utilize for putting weight to that rod, and not just fish it in the morning when you figure them buggers are clear up at the surface, man. Take that thing a little deeper. Going to show you how to do that in the bait lab. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, we'll be in that bait lab, and we'll get right to it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Fish on Northwest. I am here in the bait lab. We're going to cover just a little bit about some options that you can exercise when you're out fishing Puget Sound. Everybody loves to roll that herring out the back in your prop wash early morning when you're chasing coho. They typically, almost every day, religiously are up really high in the water column, easy to access. You can get after them even without downriggers, and that's why they're so fun to chase. Now, for years, a lot of folks, you know, basically your same size rod, just take your downrigger rod, whether it's 9.5, 10.5 foot, 10 to 20, whatever your rating is, doesn't matter. Throw that rod out the back. Just simply put, I just run a dual lock to a barrel swivel onto my 4-ounce kidney sinker, banana sinker, whatever you want to call that. This happens to be a 4-ounce painted fluorescent orange. And basically I run that to a chain swivel. You could put just a barrel swivel on there if you want to, but a lot of times we run this with a chain. It keeps that line from getting wrapped up on that sinker. Run it to about a 5-foot leader into your mooching rig, and you're just gonna put your herring on there, whether it's a cut plug or fish at hole, doesn't matter. Get a good tight drill bit spin on that, throw it out there, put about 30, 35 pulls out, and you're in the ballpark. You're gonna probably have some success getting those coho early morning. And then typically as they start going deeper, you pull that rod off, put it away, or change out your rigging and start running that downrigger out the back if you so choose. That is an option. It's worked for years. Sometimes, matter of fact, it can be good enough and productive enough that first thing in the morning, you get your coho and you're done with your limits in short order. It's also an option you can do when you have that nice combination opportunity of Chinook down deep on your downriggers and you're running that rod out the back up higher in the water column. you're going to be getting those coho as well as fishing for those Chinook down on the bottom. So something I started doing this last season more, well, basically it's all I do now. I don't even fish the banana or kidney sinkers anymore. I gave up on that. I started utilizing how I rig my stuff out of Willapa, or even when I'm going to fish Gray's Harbor. And there's just a couple things that you can do. First of all, I want to review with you the weed guard. And believe it or not, fishing a weed guard on your bait rod in Puget Sound makes a whole lot of sense to me and David and everybody else that was on the boat. We successfully fished this bait rod out the back once again 2 days during the Derby, and literally caught coho on it when there was some seaweed wrapped up on the weed guard. The herring continued to fish absolutely weed free, so you know it's spinning, doing its thing. A little bit of weeds on the weed guard, didn't hurt nothing. The bait is clean, still spinning, fish still grabbed it, worked great, okay? That being said, I'm still checking my bait every 15 to 20 minutes. Takes nothing to reel that in. Make sure you don't have a shaker on there. Make sure you don't have weeds and stuff building up on there. But 90% of the time, if we did have any weeds on the rigging, it was simply on the weed guard. Again, to make that basic wooden barbecue skewer, okay? And I can make, I believe I get 4 of them out of this one stick. I simply cut them at about 2 3/4 of an inch. You can make them 3 inches wide. Doesn't matter. I use a size 3 barrel swivel, all right? And that gets put up on my braided line. I'm fishing braided line on my downrigger rods and my bait rods, and then I put a top shot of about 30 feet of mono on there. So this basically is the rig. It's a barrel swivel that is on top of, or excuse me, the line is simply slid through each eye in the barrel swivel, and then you put that stick, you basically pin that right through that eye of that swivel. That size of stick fits exactly in the diameter of that barrel swivel, and I can slide this up and down if I want to adjust it. When there's tension pulled on it tight, that stick does not move a whole lot. It pretty much stays right where you put it. So I run that a couple feet above my rigging. So let's look at the rigging that we're talking about. Basically, I run like I would for buoy 10 or Willapa or anything like that. I'm going to run the Yakima bait spreader bar, okay? I put that on top of a couple beads to a chain swivel, and then to a clip where I clip on my leader and whatnot after that. The reason I'm running this, so the weed guard is a couple feet above the setting of my spreader bar. I will start off in the morning with a 6, sometimes a 4, but usually a 6-pound cannonball, and I will put that out about 35 feet, okay? What I'm finding is that it really does work well, dropping that cannonball on that spreader bar, and I make it sliding. You can rig this fixed, but I keep it sliding because, as any other fishery, such as your buoy 10 or your Willapa or whatnot, if you do go to net a fish and your weight does get wrapped up in the net, the line will still pull through this spreader bar, allowing the fish to run and not break off. Very important. So I'm going to utilize the spreader bar, and we don't need to fish it on a dropper. I don't need a 16 or 18-inch dropper coming off the spreader bar because we're not fishing close to bottom. We're fishing 30 feet down in 300, 400, 500, 600 foot of water. So a dropper's not needed. I'm going to pin that directly with a dual lock to the front edge of that spreader bar, okay? And that's my weight system for dropping my herring down. Now, as we got later in the day, I would fish this until about 9:30, depending on what the sunlight is doing and how bright it's getting. And we know those fish are going to continue to drop deeper. I go through progression. I will add an 8-ounce weight, and I will fish that up to a 12-ounce cannonball hanging off of my spreader bar, and I actually will put it out further depending on the amount of boat traffic that's in the area. Okay, so we literally at 2 o'clock in the afternoon are fishing this spreader bar with a 12-ounce dropper lead, not a dropper lead, a 12-ounce cannonball off of it, not on a dropper, 60 feet out the back of the boat. I figure at troll speed of about 3 miles an hour, 2.83, 3.2, that thing is probably at least 40 feet down the water column. And we continue to catch fish on that herring all day long, simply out the back of the boat. Not that it was always as deep as our downriggers, but it was within 10 feet or so. A lot of our fish were coming at 50, 60 feet. I would think this would be down about 35, 40 feet for the better part of the day on a 12-ounce ball. Could you run a 16 or 20-ouncer out there? Sure you could. And for guys that don't have downriggers on your boats and you do a lot of trolling with banana or kidney sinkers, think about switching it to a spreader bar with a lead cannonball and a stout enough rod that can carry up to 16 ounces. You're going to be surprised at how many fish you can actually encounter simply by using lead on a slider. Let's talk about the leader after the fact. I like to, for spin purposes, I basically off of that dual lock I put a swivel. I still run that 16 to 18 inch jumper of that 150-pound mono, okay? I like to put that on there because that is, in my mind, it just seems to not spin up on your leader as much when that herring is twirling so fast. You could put a 5-foot leader behind this spreader bar where your weight's attached, no problem. I just think you're going to go through more leaders. I like to use a stouter section. It's swiveled on both ends. Now I'm tying just basically a 3-foot or 36-inch herring leader that I clip onto that. And I rig all my leaders with a dual lock at the top. This has a barrel swivel connection point. And so I can take that 36-inch mooching rig now, and I'm basically fishing that behind that spreader bar. And that's it. No flasher, no inline rotator, no nothing. I'm just simply fishing herring on this spreader bar right out the back. Now you think about why we paint the kidney sinkers or the banana sinker fluorescent orange or green is for an additional attractant. I like to take the Yakima bait spreader bars and I've put moon jelly tape on each side or some type of scale fluorescence or reflectant on each side. That working in the light just adds a little more attractant to your presentation, albeit you don't really have to have any type of spinning, rotator, flasher, anything like that. It just hinges back and forth, moves in the water, captures light, and gives a little bit more attractability. So again, we're fishing this off the spreader bar, 3-foot leader off of my jumper piece. And I'm not sure, you know, we get questions on what's the best way to rig herring. There are a number of ways to rig herring, but for me, fishing Willapa, fishing Grays Harbor, fishing Puget Sound, fishing Hood Canal, wherever I'm rolling herring, if I'm choosing to fish it whole, there's one way that I like to do it, and it's basically foolproof. I'm going to take the herring, and I want to open up along its maxillary here. You take your first hook and drop it in behind that, and you're going to come right out through its eye, okay? Sometimes you might remove the eyeball in doing this, but it's no big, just like that. So I'm going to drop the second hook through the maxillary and come out through the eye, okay? Now, this second hook, this herring's coming apart because it's been sitting here in the warm air. So we're going to take this hook now, midpoint on the body, medial line, about 3/4 of the way back. We're going to pinch that right through there and lay it flat, pulling that to the front. I also like to take this back hook. Now you could leave that floating around back here by itself. I just like to keep it a little tighter to the spin on the herring, and I will take that through the bottom side, okay? And I will push that on through, pull it out, and let it basically hang right behind the herring. Sometimes those coho can be short biters, so I like to have that a couple inches off the tail. You can see where that's at least 2 inches behind the tail. Now for the bend in the herring, it's really easy. We're going to pull this a little bit tight. I'm going to put a half hitch around the snout, and this is the one that I pull a little pressure to, and you're going to see it puts a nice bend on that herring. And now I can take and secure that in place with a second half hitch right around the snout, and that really bites down hard. Don't be afraid to really pinch that down. It kind of crumples the nose on that herring, but it doesn't matter. If you look at the angle on that herring, that bend pulling through the water column at about 3 miles an hour spins like an absolute drill bit, okay? And for me, plug cut herring is good. It works at times, depending on water temperature. It holds up better in Puget Sound than it will, say, in 70-degree Columbia River, obviously. But for durability, and know that when you're fishing bait, you're truly fishing a presentation that's going to last. I like to fish a whole herring behind the boat. No flasher, no nothing in front of it. That thing will spin like a drill. back behind there. Typically I'm using just natural brine. I had some blue in the fridge, so I pulled it out for the demonstration tonight, but the bend on that herring is what gets it done. That free-floating hook behind there, I can tell you that we did not lose a single fish on our herring rigs for both days that we were fishing up at the Derby. Every fish that we hooked on our herring, we successfully landed. So good hooks do make a difference as well. Again, 3 feet on that, up to your jumper sling, to your spreader bar. Try utilizing that spreader bar. Increase your weight as you go through the morning to get deeper in the column, and you too will more than likely be happy with the success in finding coho and not having to go so deep. Okay, that does it for us here in the bait lab. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. We're back in the studio with Chucklehead One and Barnum. We're going to talk some more elk talk, and we're going to talk about Barnum's method of how to complete that Euro mount on your elk or your deer and not break the bank. So we'll jump out for a break. We'll stay tuned because we're coming right back in just a couple minutes.
Come out to break a night, the pink skies waving goodbye. She come out to break a night, leaving no traces around. She's trying to free a reckless heart. She's trying to be as light as a breeze. Queen of Art, Friday morning. Queen of Art, Friday morning. She come out to break the night. Sweet as always. You come out to break the night, you'll be wearing her charm so frail. Yeah, she's trying to avoid everyone.
Yep.
Welcome back to FHN, back here in studio, getting a little sip of the suds, said a boy.
Whoops.
You know what goes on in here when I'm in there doing the professional work. is things we can't show on the show.
Yeah, we're just talking about elk hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
That's it. Yeah, that's all there is.
We were oohing and ahhing over your bright blue herring.
Yes.
Yeah, stuff is blue.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it out. It's garbage. I mean, it's just because it's been sitting in the fridge too long. But
Right.
I kept it just to do that segment. But typically I don't fish blue herring in Puget Sound. But we were talking at the break. Yeah, for Willapa, that blue herring has been a game changer if guys haven't been trying it. I mean, natural works out in Willapa fantastic as well.
Yeah, I've had a couple game changer nights at the blue heron. Blue herring.
Oh, the blue heron. Yeah.
Wrong place.
Wrong there. Yeah.
Because
been
that's
there.
how that's why they painted that herring blue.
Yeah, that's why. Hey, Barnum, so you had put a post out on our Facebook page earlier in the week showing basically kind of the process with elk heads in boiling pots and just kind of like, hey, before everybody gets too crazy and spending tons of money on your Euro mount.
Well, I started seeing like all the time, I see buddies, I see guys on the internet, like, you know, sending their heads off to taxidermists paying, you know, $150, $250, $300 to get a Euro mount back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
Why?
Oh my God, I'm in the wrong business. I can get
Send me your heads.
send your heads my way.
Right.
Let's get this going.
Right.
But it's really simple to do on your own. And it really, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't even know if I'm into this $5.
Oh, wow.
I mean, really. So, I mean, the trick is kill your animal. Doesn't matter, deer, elk, bear, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. And what we like to do is, you know, keep them in the cooler, throw them in the freezer if you have the freezer space, if you can't get to it right away. I mean, one of the bad things that we always have happen is we'll kill a bull early in elk season, and we're busy elk hunting, and that thing will sit in the yard for a week, and the maggots are on it, and it stinks.
I've been there. Yeah.
It's like, now
Your
I
head
gotta
last
deal with
year.
this thing. Yeah, I mean,
I pulled in your driveway, got in my truck. I'm like, what is that smell? Oh, yeah, no, that's over there by the hogs.
Yeah, we're going to boil that at the
You're
end
going
of
to
the
boil
season.
it. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can keep it in a cooler or get on it right away, that's the best. But what I'll do is take the head, just skin it out. Just get rid of the skin. You know, I mean, for me, I don't spend a lot of time past the skin. Like, I mean, when I first started doing this, when I was kind of younger, I mean, we'd cut the eyeballs out, we'd get rid of the jaw, we'd get as much meat off of it as we could. And then we'd fire up the boiling pot. You know, I mean, you just got it. What I have is the bottom of a 55-gallon barrel that's about, you know, maybe 16, 18 inches tall.
Yeah.
I sawzalled off.
Right.
And I can actually fit two heads in that, kind of side by side.
Yep.
And that's what we did this year is we boiled the two heads together. And then I'm just going to boil it for like maybe a half hour, maybe 45 minutes at the most. You don't want to boil this too long because the area on the skull that has the least amount of meat is this nose area right here. And it's the most susceptible to falling apart. If you overboil, these nose pieces right here are going to fall off, okay? That's not a big deal. If they fall off, you can take them, slide them right back in, a little bit of super glue, lock them right back into place. But what you'll start to notice is this crack right here on the skull will start to split and really widen out.
Oh.
Once that starts to do that, you're really overboiling and you need to get it out of the water as fast as you can, okay? The old days, we used to take them out of the water and we'd just take a knife and pliers and whatever else and get the rest of the meat off of it. Now we've kind of upgraded and figured out that, you know, that takes way too long. I can boil it less, like I said, 30 minutes, and we can get out the pressure washer. Set this down, couple blocks of wood, you know, maybe do it in the lawn, but put a sheet of plywood down or a chunk of plywood because you're going to make a mess. I'm telling you.
Some fur, some
I
some
con this
skin.
off on Hudson now.
brains.
We're gonna full rain gear, eye protection, zip the coat up so it's a little opening like this, and I just set Hudson loose and he goes to town, and I mean he's got brains and meat and hair scattered for 20 yards around this thing.
Disgusting.
Yeah, but it'll take him 15, 20 minutes, and he'll have it basically to this right here.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, you know, kind of a dull, not a bright white.
Right.
The trick here is, when you're done pressure washing, you can't take this thing and go set it down and forget about it for 3 days. You need to keep it wet at all times.
Oh.
As soon as you start to let this bone dry and keep that color that's on it naturally, it's going to stain and you're not going to get this bright white.
Oh.
So if I pressure washed it and I don't have time to apply my powder that I'm going to do, that I'll talk to you about here in a minute, I'll just rinse that pot out, clean it all up, fill it full of water, and sit the heads right back in it. Yep, and keep it in water.
So it's like a potato.
Yep.
If you keep a potato in water, it doesn't start discoloring. If you have it out in the air, it starts turning brown and yellow. Yeah.
And here's the trick, and here's the question I always get. Well, what do you use to bleach it? So Sally's Beauty Bar in every strip mall in every town in America.
Sally's Beauty Bar.
Sally Beauty's Bar.
Okay.
Okay. Go in there. This is just your normal. Hold that for me. Salon Care Quick White. It's a powder. It's a bleaching agent that they use to dye hair blonde. Okay. You take this powder as much as it takes.
Did you get some of that on the back of your hair?
No, I just look good. I mean, once you get done doing the head, you can frost your tips.
Right, there you go.
Whatever you want to do.
Get that hedgehog look going. I like it.
Now then I go to the Salon Care. This is like a volumizer cream, but it's a peroxide product.
Okay.
So I'm mixing this powder, this bleach powder, with a peroxide. You can use hydrogen peroxide too. The reason why I like to use this cream is because it makes a little better of a paste. Peroxide tends to get a little bit runny in there. And you're just going to mix it up in a little dish. It's super strong smelling. I mean, it'll make your eyes water. I mean, you're bleaching hair. Women know that when you're bleaching hair. It
well, then have them do it.
Right. They're
used to it.
Wear rubber gloves because I found out the other day you get it on your skin, it'll bleach your skin. That's good to know. So yeah, and you're just going to paint this on. Like, I'm pulling it straight out of the water, kind of shaking it off. It's still wet. I'm going to make this paste, and I'm just going to paint everything with a liberal coat of this paste and just let it dry. And once it's dry, I'm just going to take another dry, clean brush and just brush that off, and it's done.
So it bleaches it, cleans it.
I'm telling you, if it's got blood stain, if it's got a little bit of yellowing from whatever, as long as you kept it wet, it'll eat that right off.
So let me get this right. You're sitting in Sally's salon one day, and she's bleaching your tips, frosting, you getting that hedgehog look going. You go, let me ask you something. Would this stuff clean bone to like a bone white?
So this started, I mean, we were going to Cabela's and we were paying $60, $80 for this bleaching kit.
Yeah.
And my wife had a friend who was a hairdresser, and she goes, well, I don't see why just normal hair bleaching powder wouldn't work. She's like, you want to try some?
Right.
And she gave us a bag, and we mixed it with peroxide and tried it, and boom.
Done.
And then she's like, well, I just get that stuff at Sally's Beauty Bar. So now we're like, and I'm telling you.
Sally's Beauty Bar.
Yeah, this tub right here will do 20 plus heads, and for like $20 you can do 20 plus heads. I mean, we're talking, like I said, I'm maybe $5 into this with
you weren't kidding.
And maybe $1 or $2 in product, and that's what I have. And then the one that above Dwayne, I mean, that mount's probably 10 years old,
still white,
it's still beautiful white. So
it doesn't start turning yellow at all.
So a little bit of a mess, a little bit of bit of getting a little bloody and dirty and having brains blown in your face.
Yeah, but you're earning it. I mean, look at what you get done when it's done. And I can attest to the number of skulls throughout your house, deer or elk, doesn't matter. They're all white. Every dang one of them is whiter than anything.
Here's the thing I learned though: bear skulls, cougar skulls, anything that you're gonna have scored the skull, don't boil.
No.
Boiling shrinks the skull. And it'll
if you're going to have it scored,
If you're going to have... Now, on horns, you're obviously not boiling the horns. You don't have that issue. But I boiled a bear and then took it and had it scored, and the guy was just sick because I missed Boone and Crockett by 1/4 of an inch, and he's like, you boiled Boone and Crockett right out of that score. I'm like, so that's a word of advice. There are places you can send them off to and have beetles and do all that, or you can clean them the best you can and just let them air dry, which won't shrink them as bad as boiling them. But I mean, if you have an animal, a bear or a cougar or something like that, where you're going to score the actual bone of the skull, don't boil it and just be okay with the fact that it's not bright white.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is what it is, but it's it's better to honor that animal in the trophy books than it is to boil the Boone and Crockett right out of him.
Yeah. Man, speaking of records, if my bull this year would have had the thirds that yours had, mine would have been the record.
Well, I'm still like, I have 2 or 3 bulls that are a few inches short of Pope and Young, Tony. And I'm still, with my life story, I'm a few inches short.
It's coming. Next year.
Right.
You, sir, were successful in killing a nice bull.
It's good. Good season.
You went out with your regular crew, had your dad there.
Yep.
Would you guys get three elk in your camp?
Yep, we did. Mm-hmm. Yep. We had a partner, and Dad got a cow, and I got a bull, and it's a good season.
All right.
Yeah. Yep. called it in. Actually, it was one of the hotter bulls that we made an attempt at this year. Mm-hmm. And we just got really aggressive with it because it was a failure for 4.5 days, of bulls turning and boogering, and which happens all the time. Wind swirl, thermals, whatever. We just went right at this bull, and I think I shot him at 62 yards.
Right.
But it was just making a bunch of noise going to him. I mean, there's no... If you got the wind right and you're making a move on an elk, making a lot of noise, sounding just like an elk does, there's no issue until that wind switches or you're, you're not painted up with camo or they see you. But
well, we talked about that when we were eating dinner before the show. That I believe that you could probably not have the reed, not have the bugle, and if you could get in, get yourself in position in the herd, and you were to make all the noise we make, raking trees, breaking logs, you could call in bulls just like that and never make a peep out of your mouth.
Without any noise.
Yeah.
You honestly believe that now?
Yeah, I do.
We had one instance where a friend of ours, actually, we were calling the same bull, and we were in some thick stuff, and the tube that was on my back kept stretching every time it would hook onto limb and stuff, so I had to go to just a diaphragm without a tube and trying to, call an elk this way, cupping your hand and everything. Long story short, it doesn't sound the same, and he was like, I knew you were a human the whole time. The bull didn't, because it still sounds like a young bull, but a human hearing another guy, and he's using the tube, and he sounded great, but we were committed, me and my brother, on this bull for 20 minutes or so, maybe 30 minutes. And then as we got closer to the bull, it sounded like somebody on the other side of him. And we're like, could that be a human or is that a bull? They all make weird sounds, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so we went right to the last waking 50, 60 yards before he realized we were, calling the bull, and he was calling the bull. And then that bull just boogered. He figured out everything wasn't right, and
something
he
seems
left.
a little weird, yeah.
But we ran into each other afterwards, and it's just a simple situation where, nobody was mad at each other. Right. It was literally like, we wrong place, wrong time for both of us, or whatever. But a lot of people calling this year, and they get call shy really quick.
Yeah, I take that opportunity. I ran into a guy this year that was we had went back in to locate the bull that I missed and started calling and had a guy answer us. And I tried to give him all the signals, the 5 cow calls in a row. And hey, I'm a person, I know you're a person. But I ended up going up and talking to that guy, and I told you, you sound good.
Yeah.
I just knew you were coming from the road above where I came. Yeah. And if that bull was up there, I would have.
You would have seen him,
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It was kind of a neat moment where we actually talked about it after it happened and knew who each other were, and he sounded way better than I did. Too, I had to explain to him. I said, hey, listen, there's a reason why. Right. But anyway, sounding small is always the best way for us on the coast. Yeah. We always talk about that. My partner's in camp, and you just try to sound like the giant bull of the woods. Calling to 3-year-old bulls, 2.5, 3.5-year-old bulls.
They are not going to come see you.
No. You want to create some excitement, but you want to sound like you're the same age that they are.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Barnum actually, right at the start of the season, before we got cranking up the season, we were talking about the approach, how to call. When it's appropriate to make a lot of noise, when you got to kind of dumb it down a little bit. Maybe when you transition to cow call only to see if you're, pique their interest, depending on what they're doing. And he was very descriptive on when it's time to make noise, you make noise. And he talked about breaking sticks, crashing trees, throwing rocks, coming in loud and proud, and getting their attention. And we had a guy that was watching the show, David knows, works with him, I think, he said, deployed those tactics this year, first time, when he was out chasing elk and was successful at archery and an elk. Yeah. And he accredits it to watching the show, listening to him, and taking that verbatim and just doing it. Just, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I'm getting aggressive on this guy, and he freaking stuck his out.
And at times it's almost like you're thinking to yourself, like, what am I doing?
Like
I'm tearing these woods up.
If somebody drove by right now, they would probably tranquilize me and then go commit me to a hospital.
90% of hunters would be like, this guy is like, what
he's
is wrong
losing
with
his
this guy?
mind.
But it works.
He's absolutely
It
out of
just
his
flat out works,
Right.
and it blows me away. And the proof is in the pudding, in the fact that I don't know how many times we've been in that calling sequence, and there's a herd of 10, 15 cows, and you're making all this ruckus, and they don't care.
No.
Like, they sit there and feed, or they're bedded, and they're letting all this go on, and they're not nervous whatsoever. Like, this is a normal deal. Like, well, Tommy's all fired up at a bull down the hill, and he's making ruckus, and they're, let them do what boys are going to do.
But again, obviously you do that for the first day, or you do it based on what you are getting in response. And if it's not working, much like this year, you're like, Jesus, we're going to have to spot and stock.
Yeah, and
I can't believe we're going to have to spot and stock.
Understanding in those situations that one cow call could blow this whole thing up.
Yeah.
Where in other times we're making as much noise as possible, but then I'm in a situation where a cracked stick or a cow call or anything, and I'm going to ruin this. I mean, I have to be silent. And so it's your gut. It's what your gut's telling you to do, and you only get that from experience.
Absolutely.
And all bets are off when the bull hangs up and you've thrown every trick in the books at him. You think, I mean, there's so many great callers in this world that sound so great in front of you with a call, but there's things that they don't make the right moves to actually harvest an elk. They can call all they want and be great, you know, in front of a camera, but when you go out and you stick them year after year after year doing the things that we do and a lot of other successful elk hunters do, there's more to it than just calling. Because like you said, when it fails, and it fails on all of us, it doesn't always work. You got to just elk it like you did and say, I'm going to get the wind right and I'm going to sneak in and I'm going to, I mean, you don't get freezer bound unless you...
We talk about that. There's bulls that we call in, and then there's bulls that we hold up just long enough to slip in to make a shot.
Absolutely.
And that, I mean, there's a lot of times where I realize in a situation, this bull is not going to come in. He's proven to me time and time again today that he's not going to come in. So I need to get him stationary, let him talk, and I need to slip in and try to make this happen.
Absolutely.
There's times to sit back and let the bull come to you, and there's times you have to go and be a little more proactive and make the shot happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And the guys that can understand that and know how to make those moves and understand that play as it's unfolding, because it's a completely fluid situation, are the guys that are successful year after year after year. Yeah, I mean, I know some amazing bow hunters that are successful every year, and I know that it isn't always just bulls trotting in, hey, shoot me.
Yeah, right, right.
So,
yeah. Still got to battle the wind. I mean, they make dead downwind, they make windicators, but nobody's made a wind changer. Wind
changer.
I'm buying one because I'm so sick.
Let's make it.
Having everything right for 5 minutes on when you think you're gonna make it happen with a bull, and next thing you know, the little bit of hair that I got left on the back of my neck stands up, and I'm like, not again.
There we go.
And some of the being successful is understanding wind dynamics, because it was a situation on Hudson's bull where we're making this sneak, and the whole time we're making this sneak, the wind is at our backs. And Hudson's got his wind indicator, I have mine. He's like, Dad, no. And I'm like, once we get around this ridge, the wind's going to change, and it's going to be prevailing winds in our face, and we're going to have it. You know, I said it's swirling because it's coming around the ridge. I mean, every bone in our body is saying, don't make this approach, the wind is wrong. And as soon as we got around that ridge, it was straight wind in the face. That bull had no chance, and it's just that. You know, just knowing how wind acts, you know, against certain land features. And I mean, that's all stuff that just takes time in the woods. And
experience,
learning.
like you got.
Learning from all your screw-ups.
Yes.
I learned more from a missed opportunity than I'll ever learn from sitting next to a bull. Yeah, because I'm successful on that bull because of the stuff I already know.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's the one that ran away because of the stuff I didn't know.
Now you got to figure out what. Yeah, gotcha. All right, good stuff, guys. Congrats to both of you. That's some serious meat in the freezer, and I can't wait till some of it lands here in exchange for fish.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump out for a break. Barnum, we got some clam digs coming up, September 27, 28, 29. We're going to get to in your weather report, talk about tides, and it will be very conducive to getting out and getting the kids out. I think they're daytime tides if I looked right. We got that coming up, but before we get there, jumping into the kitchen with a pre-record, Chef Kelly and Sherry with a recipe of the week. Frito misto, I believe, is that clam fry that he did. It is unbelievable.
Wow.
You never see anything like this, Tony. It is so good. Everything he throws in this pot and deep fries and throws in with these clams, amazing. So pay attention to this one. Don't go anywhere. If you plan on getting out on this clam dig, you definitely want to copy down this recipe or watch it multiple times because it is a good one. We'll jump out for a break, coming right back. Be in the kitchen with Chef Kelly and Sherry right after this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're here in the kitchen with Chef Kelly, and I believe we have for the recipe of the week clams?
Razor clams.
Okay.
Yes, and it's razor clam season, and it's a fantastic time to get the kiddos out. And if this is like one of the best sports that we have that you can get your whole family out. It's very minimal equipment-wise, clam gun, rain gear, and some knee-high boots. Mm-hmm. You're good to go.
So like little Harper.
Yes.
2 years old.
2 years old.
Got to get her out there.
She's going to find a clam and she's going to go unglued. I promise you. It is the best thing for kiddos.
Awesome.
They need to get their hands dirty. It's just part of growing up, right?
Yep. So what's this dish called?
It's called Frito misto. Okay, so it's an Italian dish.
Fancy.
Yeah, I know, it's fancy, but it means mixed fry. That's all it is. And, the Italians do kind of different things. They'll do like small little fishes that they fry up whole. And
How about squid?
Squid, yes, absolutely. Yep. This is, not a hard and fast deal other than maybe the breading, and other than that, let her rip,
Whatever you want.
Yeah, spot shrimps. Throw a spot shrimp in there.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, we're coming up on spot shrimp season anyways.
Okay.
All right, so, and then we're also going to make our own lemon garlic aioli.
So like a mayo.
Yes, it's a fancy name, French name for mayo.
And we're going to make our own.
You're going to make your own. You're going to learn how to make your own.
Awesome.
It's super, super easy. All right, so let's work on our clams. So obviously I kind of cut up some earlier, but I wanted to show you this. And, there's lots of videos out there, how to clean clams.
I was just going to say you've already cleaned them. And
right.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so they're kind of, funky shapes and all kinds of things. You just gotta have to work with stuff. you know. So I'm going to cut this guy in half. And they're going to cut like thin little strips.
Okay, what'd you have them in? Is that milk?
That's milk.
Okay.
And so you can use buttermilk. Buttermilk has a little bit of enzymes to it, so it'll make them more tender and all kinds of good stuff. So you can use milk or buttermilk. Either way is fine.
Okay, whatever you have, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, traditionally people bread their clams, and it's just kind of a more drawn out process. And I just always thought that I'm going to treat it like a calamari, like a fried calamari.
Yeah, that sounds good too.
Just trying to make it easier on you guys.
Pretty much what's readily available and that you can just do right from your kitchen and your pantry.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So we are good to go.
Good to go.
All right. So while that is marinating right now and kind of breaking down, we're going to work on our lemon garlic aioli.
Okay.
Okay.
And you like garlic in there?
I love garlic in it.
Okay.
It's a very signature thing to it. So we're adding 2 egg yolks.
Egg yolks.
Juice of 2 lemons. This is 3 small guys, so.
So do you add garlic to your own mayonnaise? Just regular mayonnaise?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
How much you putting in there?
That's about 2 cloves, but I mean, you want.
Let's put 3.
So, okay, there you go. We'll go for it. Remember?
Okay. Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Okay, guys? Now, one of the thickening agents of aioli or mayonnaise is mustard. Now, I'm using brown mustard, but you could also use Dijon, which is more traditional.
Okay.
But either one works fine.
All right.
What's happening is that it's thickening it, and that's what's going on with it.
How much did you use, you think? That bowl is pretty full.
About half a tablespoon.
Okay.
Okay, so there you go, if you take care of that.
All right.
All right, so
Oops.
let that on. So it's starting to come together a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to add oil.
Okay. Even if you wanted like a little more mustard, or do you think that's plenty?
Okay, and we're going to add a little bit of water because we want this to be kind of a sauce-like consistency. We don't want it to be mayonnaise.
Okay.
We want it to be there. I need to look at it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. There we go. Okay, so we're going to, while I have this off here, we're going to season this.
A little bit of salt.
A bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. If you wanted to use white pepper, that's fine. I'm not one of those people who doesn't like the color of black pepper.
Oh, okay.
So some people like that.
Just a little bit more time.
Okay, so it's more, I'm shooting for that kind of a dipping sauce kind of a consistency. We're not trying to shoot for a thick mayo.
Okay.
Okay, so. Oh, that's perfect.
No double dipping?
No double dipping.
No double dipping.
Okay, so if you could put that into
Sure.
there, we're now going to work on our breading our things. So what we're going to use for our breading is we're going to use a cup of flour, a cup of corn flour.
So what's the reason for both kind of flours? Does the corn flour stick to it a little bit more? Or?
Well, corn, I'm not a huge fan of cornmeal. I don't like, the random one little bite of hardness from cornmeal.
It might taste like you left the sand in the clams.
Yeah, it's like, it's just too much.
Yeah.
So we're going to add some garlic powder. You can go pretty heavy on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to go light on that. Okay, we're going to season it. Probably a little heavier than you think. Okay.
The salt.
Some salt.
Okay.
Lots of pepper.
Workout.
Okay, so now we got our dredge here.
Dredge.
Yes, it's technical.
All your terms,
Yeah, I
Chef. I know we hired you for the fancy words.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we
right.
have our clams in there. Okay, and you know, like I said, you know, this is a mixed fry. You know, I throw in all kinds
So
of things.
you throw in all that stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna throw some
Okay.
lemon slices in there. They get crispy, a little citrusy. I have some artichokes I sliced up here. Make sure you kind of drain them because the oil on them makes the breading not stick too good.
Okay.
Okay, and then we're gonna have some red bell peppers for a little bit of color, a little crunch. I keep them kind of on the
Julian.
bigger side
Okay.
so that they're not gonna get so wilted down
Okay.
when they start getting fried. Okay, so we're just going to
Just get your hands in there.
get your hands in there. Make sure that you get these all separated out. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
So I've seen artichokes without any, just plain, without, I think they're in water.
Yeah, no, they're in the brine usually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
The same deal.
You should-
But you don't have to deal with
should
the
use
the
those.
problems
Yeah.
that the oil
The
marinated ones
marinade
have.
in there. Okay.
Okay, so this is how we're going to sift out everything.
Oh.
Right in the basket.
Okay.
Okay. What's going to destroy your fryer oil faster than anything is getting excess flour in there. Okay.
Yeah, you can't
so-
hardly get that out, right?
Right. So if you can take care of that.
I'll clean up your mess, Chef.
Thank you.
Always want a messy chef. Can't trust those clean ones. So how long do you think that goes in there for?
Well, this is one of those, it's only going to be till it's kind of light golden brown.
Okay.
And if you err on the side of a little bit less is better. That'll work too. Because you
Easier
can always
to-
fry it more,
Right.
can't fry it less.
There you go. That's true. Can't take it back out.
No.
Put it back in.
All right, so we're almost there. So what'd you think of aioli? I mean, it wasn't,
Very easy. Yeah, and we have everything here.
yeah.
And now I really have everything here, so I can just throw it together all the time. But you said that you really shouldn't make too much of it because it only lasts about a week. Is
It
that what
only
you
lasts
told
about
me?
a week, yeah. Yeah, if you go a little too crazy and make too much, it's going to go bad within
Yeah.
a week because we're
Okay.
using all fresh ingredients.
Right.
You know, your commercial mayonnaise has all these preservatives, and you know, it's like you don't know what you're eating. You know exactly what you're eating now.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't take very long.
Do it yourself.
All right, we're
How
almost
those
there.
look. I never would have thought of throwing the lemons and everything in there in the fryer.
Yeah, I like them. They're a little crispy, a little citrusy.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Just about ready.
Yes. Okay,
right.
so that's
Oh.
one.
Good.
Good. You know, salt.
A little more kosher salt.
Kosher salt.
Kosher salt. Wow.
You know, a little.
So good. More pepper.
More pepper.
More pepper.
But yeah, you can do as little or as less as you want. So there you go, guys. Here is a Frito misto
Jeez.
with fried razor clams, artichokes, red bell pepper, fried lemons.
I can't wait to get Harper out there to get our own. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Did you hear that, Dwayne England? We need to take Harper. We're going to throw it back to you in the studio.
Good.
Frito misto. Do not discredit the lemons that get dropped into that fryer. I'm here to tell you, I was a little
that's weird.
skeptical. Unfreaking believable.
Wow.
I mean, really, really good. So that's one that we got to drag some clams out of the freezer, if I have them. If not,
You don't need to drag them out of the
Absolutely.
freezer.
I want some.
go dig them.
Because there's a dig coming up.
Oh, that's right.
And it's a daylighter, you said?
It's a daylighter right now. Upcoming digs for the Long Beach area only. September 27th, September 28th, September 29th. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And our tides?
Well, let's jump to the big screen.
Let's do some weather, Barnum. Let's do some tides. Let's get people ready for the weekend.
All right, let's hop in here and look at the tides for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is for Paradise Point off of Long Island, which is pretty dang close to Long Beach.
Yeah.
Friday, you were looking at a 717 low, a minus 1.0. Like I said, this is one of those ones early in the morning with hopefully some fair weather that, we always preach, get there 3 hours before the tide. But I really think with some fair weather and these tides, with the 717, you're going to see daylight around 6:45, 7 a.m. You roll in there at 6:30, get your gear, get down the beach, ready to dig by 6:45. You're going to find yourself a lot of clams Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. WDFW is saying there's a lot of clams to be harvested at that beach. That's why they're giving it an early opener. So get out there and take advantage of that. And remember, just because you pull up to the approach and there's 700 people digging within 1/4 mile of the approach doesn't mean that's the only place there's clams.
Sure.
I mean, you can go up the beach a half a mile, 3/4 a mile where there's a fewer people and have a nice, enjoyable dig without stepping on each other and dig some nice clams.
What do they talk? 5.3 million clams.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did they count that?
Well, one by one.
It's fish and wildlife.
Those biologists are
one
awesome.
by one. One clam.
I mean, they have a system.
Clam.
They go out and they pump a hole and see how many clams are per square foot and go from there.
They definitely
age
know.
Class. They
know more
class.
than Montesano math.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
They ain't from Willapon. They got it figured out.
Yeah.
So let's kind of take a look. I just kind of pulled up the ocean forecast, the surf forecast here for Southwest Washington and Northern Oregon, so you guys can see it. Friday, it's going to be a little breezy in the morning, 15 to 20, rising 20, 25. The wind waves are going to be 3 feet at 6 seconds, and the swells 10 feet at 9. So Friday morning, the surf could be pounding a little bit, so be aware of that. Remember, when you guys are digging clams, don't turn your back to the surf. Make sure you're looking at the surf. Be aware of sneaker waves. Just be aware of your surroundings. People get in trouble every year digging in the surf, not paying attention, and get hammered by a big wave. One of the things I wanted to kind of take a look and talk about also, not that there's a whole lot of hunting going on right now until we get into the muzzleloader seasons October 5th, but we have what we're being told is going to be a pretty unseasonably cold front coming into most of eastern Washington.
Yeah.
Look at these Colville temperatures for Saturday and Sunday. Periods of rain, and we're hearing that could be rain-snow mix, maybe even a chance of snow at any type of elevation, but Saturday you're looking at 44 degrees for a high, 34 for a low. Sunday, 41 high, 32 for a low. Monday, 26 for a low. I mean, when's the last time we seen upper 20s in September?
Yeah, wow,
I mean,
crazy.
It's been a while.
Yep.
So, I mean, east side, especially northeast Washington, is going to get really cold. And with that being said, anybody that's going over the passes for the weekend, I kind of wanted to pull this up for you. Friday, they're looking at 3 inches potentially. Looks like snow level is going to be around 4,500. Friday night, it's going to drop to 4,000 with potential of 6 inches. So, I mean, if you're going over the pass this weekend for any reason at all, whether you're going to go fish the Columbia for salmon or maybe you're going on a grouse hunt or whatever you're doing, be aware that you might encounter winter driving conditions on those mountain passes.
Yeah.
So, be prepared for that and stay safe. I mean, summer's over, fall might be here for a week or so, but
then we're dropping right into winter.
Yeah, it might be quickly out.
Hey, as Frankie the weatherman says, be prepared. Right?
So, I mean, it's been a long time.
You know what I'm talking about, Tony?
I love
that guy, Frankie. Oh, he's the man. You know what? You're talking about that freezing level dropping to 4,500 feet. All I hear after 7,000 is Puyallup's going to turn green. Get your spinners, get your bobber and eggs ready.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of coho around. The Puyallup's open, and you can keep wild and hatchery fish there.
Right.
Yeah, time to go actually go fish the Puyallup with some hardware versus long line and flossing, stuff going on. So in those coho, once those B-run get in there, that's a great opportunity. You folks stay up there. I moved down here to get away from all that. So, we'll take care of the coast. We're good down here. You guys stay up there and fish the Puyallup.
Right, and if we can keep these unseasonably cold temperatures, I think you may see a deer rut that kicks in a little bit early this year. And
that is a good point.
I don't know what's going to happen with this muzzleloader opener for elk on October 5th. due to the fact that it was a really weird, really not very strong rut in the early season. Now, next week on the west side, it looks like we're going to have some stable weather, mid-60s for temperature. You guys could go into next weekend with a possibility of seeing a little bit of rut activity in the muzzleloader hunt.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, don't leave those bugle tubes at home for that. I mean, I would do your normal spot and stalk in the morning, but don't be afraid to drive around a little bit and blow that bugle midday.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right, we are going to run a little bit late, but that's okay. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. You got a new album.
Yes, sir.
That is out, and people can get their hands on it right now. Isn't that
Absolutely. Right? Freezer Bound. Yes,
Freezer
sir.
Bound.
Yep, Freezer Bound.
Album number 5.
Yeah.
Look at you all growing up making music.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know how much of it's good.
Well, we'll be the judge of that. We're going to come back. We're going to listen to a little snippet off a couple of the tunes off of this new album. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your inspiration and how you come to writing music.
Great.
You basically wrote all the music on this album as
Absolutely.
previous, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, don't go anywhere.
The words, anyway.
Give this man some credit. Hang in there. We're going to come back after this quick break and listen to a few short versions of some of the music on Tony's new album, Tony Wintrip, right here on FHM when we come back.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
I was like, are you kidding?
Welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We are winding down here, getting some comedic relief from our buddy Bo, Chucklehead number 2. He can't be here in person, so you write music, he writes jokes, and I told you at the break, you're making more money.
You should see him fish. That's awesome.
Oh, I could hardly wait. What do you call a clam that lifts? A hoister. Bo Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
Bo
Olson. Yeah, what the heck?
They don't have a lot of clams on the east side, so.
No, they don't.
Well, not the kind that we like.
No, they don't. Let's talk a little bit about your latest album, Tony, number 5, Freezer Bound.
Freezer Bound, yeah. Freezer Bound is a song about, that drive you take after you've hunted. You've been in the mountains for days, and you got your deer, elk, whatever in the back, and you're thinking about all the success, as you drive to the freezer. And it's just kind of a grooving song about being proud of taking an animal and the experience you got.
Propped up in the back of the truck so everybody can see it.
And you're headed to that freezer. and life is good. So
yeah,
Freezer Bound is I figured was the perfect title for the album because there's nothing like it when you leave the woods and you know you got food for the winter.
It's the goal.
It is.
It's the goal. Yeah. And so you wrote all the lyrics on this album, all songs.
Yep.
How long did you work on this album?
We started working on it in May, I believe. I had some great players from the Harbor. My guitar player was Dustin Adair. There was Don Stone, Garrison Cash, Mike Peterson on the drums, and Tyler Tingey from Montesano produced it. Doug George played some bass too, one of my old bass players from years back. And man, we just had a ball doing it.
Cool.
It took forever, and then we ended up finishing in Astoria. So yeah, perfect. Studio in Astoria, about a mile from the Fort George Brewery. Oh yeah, that's good.
Long days, longer nights. Perfect. Let's listen to a little bit about 30-45 seconds of Freezer Bound. Let's take a listen on that. That's supposed to be the cue from David. Here we go. There we go.
Packed in for 7 days. I'm listening to the howling wolves and catching sun rays. I ain't slept a week at night. Can't wait for the light to show. I'm gonna get the wind right and find me a big old bull. Now I'm freezer bound, living the life like a backwoods drifter, don't you know? Watching the stars and the satellites.
I like it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think looking at you could sing like that.
They make some great equipment these days.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. You sang live here last time when you came in studio with your guitar, and you got a great voice, my friend.
Thank you.
Awesome. So how many songs are on this album?
There's 12 songs on the album. Yep, 12 songs and a couple of the better songs that I think are how I was born and raised, and it talks about, basically how I was born and raised in Aberdeen, with Lake Aberdeen there to catch a fish, or I chased ducks, this and that, and follows the born and raised guys from Oregon, which a lot of people follow, and I followed them forever, and I just thought this song would go good with everything that they do, and they're super good dudes.
Cool.
So I wrote the song called Born and Raised, and then Traditions for Angry Mountain Productions, which Jason and Nick Schmidt, Tyson Drevnock, Charlie Smith, Kelly Smith. Anyway, so Born and Raised is probably how I was born and raised is really how the songs goes, but that's probably the best one on the album, I think. So see what you think.
We're going to take a little listen on that right now.
In a little town, hell on wheels with the hammer down. I only had a couple of things in mind. I started out chasing girls and chasing bucks, bugling bulls and mallard ducks, an occasional rainbow from the lake. Where I was born and raised on hunting, can you take me fishing? As a young boy, I was always wishing I could make a living working in the woods someday. Born and raised in a garden, taters and corn, praying at the table, coffee in the morning, thanking the good Lord for who I am today. How I was born and raised.
I like it.
Cool.
It's got kind of a little bluegrass sound to it.
Yeah.
Little,
Well, Dustin, he played the banjo. He was just like, I'm like, God, a banjo would sound so good. And he's like, well, I got one. I'm like, you play the banjo? Dustin Adair,
Yeah.
He's like,
he does.
oh, yeah, I play a little bit. Well, he just comes in and just nails it. We're like,
he's such a talented guy.
he's such a talented dude.
Yeah.
Right.
So
awesome.
Yeah, it was great, and appreciate you guys letting me.
Oh, dude, you kidding?
Play a little bit and
album is released, available. How can people get their hands on it?
It's on all of the stream sites right now, like Apple, Amazon, iTunes, Spotify was supposed to be loaded today, CD Baby Music, and any of the other global distribution sites. And then I should have the copies, and I'm going to distribute them in the stores for the main CD copies pretty quick, or on my website, bulldownproductions.com.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll have them up on there within a couple of days, and people will be able to buy them there, and I'll ship them out.
Where are you playing next?
Wild Man Brewing
next?
in Raymond, October 25th. I'll play a 2-hour acoustic set in there, and it's a great place, great beers, beautiful atmosphere, and always down to help a small town venue out. So we'll start there, and deer hunting is first, though. Deer hunting's first.
I will be deer hunting that morning, and Shing and I are making the drive to Aberdeen that night. Or where are we at? Raymond.
Yep.
Raymond. Give the name of it again.
Wild Man Brewing.
Wild Man Brewing. Yep. Raymond.
Yep.
We will be in there that night, and looking forward to that. And you're going to play a lot of your new songs?
Yep. I'll play the whole new set and some off the Bull Down and the Northwest Wild album.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, can't thank you enough for coming in once again.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I love it in here.
You're one of our few guys that's been back. So
He's the first 3-timer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bam.
Last time I made that mention, what happens when you feed a stray dog, right?
Right, we're gonna be like SNL. We'll have to get like a 4-timer jacket next time he comes back.
I'm just hoping that next time Bo will bring me a set of sheds that I can take on.
Good luck. Good luck.
Oh yeah.
We don't rate high enough.
No, I know. Yeah.
Well, hopefully he brings in another set of sheds. I'm going to send him home with some clams, because I don't think he's ever seen one. So. Anyway, we'll just leave it at that. Fantastic, great fun tonight with Tony in studio, as it always is. Thanks for joining us. We will be back next week. Barnum, you're going to be here?
Yep.
David? I'm just making sure the crew's going to be here. We do another live show, because this pre-record crap sucks, and I ain't doing it again. So we will definitely have some good stuff going on next week. Gosh, we'll be into October.
We will.
Won't it be like October
I'll be here,
5th or
truck
something?
loaded, ready to head east side to check food plots
Right.
and game cameras.
Yep.
It's deer season.
Yeah.
Deer season's on us. Get out, get your last few days in on your archery if you still got time. I think to tomorrow, 27th,
Yeah,
and then we take a little break here and we'll jump back onto the old deer hunt. But fall is here, man. Get out there and start chasing some salmon. Post your pictures up, because we certainly will be. Mm-hmm. And I think next time you come back, might even be in a couple weeks. We'll see. But I'm going to have some smoked salmon for you.
Ooh, yeah, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in.
So, all right, real good. That's going to do it for us this week. Join us next Thursday, 7 p.m. right here, Facebook and YouTube. And, of course, spend the week taking our content, spread it out there, and give us a like. All right, we'll see you next Thursday. Have a great week.
Thanks, guys.